Hi, my name is Zachary Angela, and I wanted to go over kind of an introduction to Go, or where you would begin, or maybe not entirely where you begin, but if you were coming from, let's say, Node.js into Go, so you're looking more at the web part of Go, and that isn't the entire aspect of Go. Obviously, there's a way bigger part of cloud infrastructure and systems programming and everything. But for me personally, the web part from prior languages is what sort of brought me into Go. Some of it had to do with the idea of, because I had like JavaScript at the time and how things were changing so fast, and just following tutorials constantly and everything. I just kind of get that burnout a little bit. So I learned with Go that it pretty much never changes. It's not really huge on the frameworks, and you get a full mental model of kind of what's going on. So for me personally, JavaScript, at least the frameworks, I should say, led me into Go, because when I started to read that was a big part of Go, I realized that was very important. So let's say you were in the same position somehow as I was, I don't know, 2015, 16, something like that, and you're burned out with the JavaScript stuff, and you're like, well, I just want something that just works. I just want something that never changes. I don't want to watch more tutorials. I just want something simple to do what I want it to do, to a certain degree anyways. And so what do you do? For me personally, I ended up writing up a document while I was learning Go. It has a few other things in it, and I'll leave this link in the notes, but basically I wanted something I made something while I was learning, because I knew that there were so many resources, so many things you do when you research some, that you end up forgetting a lot of stuff. You just, in order to do this one thing, you went through, 20 websites, and so, there's a lot of information and things you learned through that process, but it were lost. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to find something that benefited me, I'm going to link it. And so that's sort of what I did. One of the things that I think is partially useful is the Go advocates. Bill Kennedy, Dave Cheney, Ross Cox, Rob Pike, Todd McLeod. Bill Kennedy I liked because he went really deep into like the memory aspect of it, and basically saying that you're sort of responsible for your code, and that to a certain degree is important, right? If you're in a big organization and it's been 10 years and everyone has to deal with your stuff, it becomes very self-evident to everyone constantly, every single day. And so that it's important. So I made some links here to some of his stuff. Dave Cheney, I think, is great because he sort of simplifies some really complicated ideas that I'm not totally privy on, but he simplifies them down. And so looking at his stuff sort of helps you look at things that you really were not thinking of at the time whatsoever. Russ Cox, I think he's the Go team lead. He goes over and breaks down. He's really amazing. He breaks things down that are real problems that you super were not aware of, and he explains them in a fashion that I think are just really useful. He's working on things that just make Go better in general, but he's going after the points that really matter that you weren't thinking of. Rob Pike, I just watched him for inspiration, sort of. He is really good at just programming in general, and you just kind of watch in awe at all of his stuff. I just sometimes I'll leave it on repeat while I'm working, just because the way he explains things is just very enticing. Yeah, he's really good. There's Todd McLeod, who he goes after, I think, the beginner, and I think his classes are sort of worth it in Udemy and everything. And he sort of was the introduction to it all for me a little bit. And he takes it at a very, 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 very you don't know nothing approach, and then he just enters into some things. And I think it was a very good introduction, because I'm just one of those people who, for better or worse, needs a really big, long, deep introduction to things. That's just how I am. Documentation is hard. Usually, not always, but it usually is. I think Python had some pretty good documentation, especially Beautiful Soup. I think that package was very good documentation. And then when you look at other things, it becomes a lot harder. So, yeah. The other people were just really amazing on the Go team. I don't think Brad is on there anymore, but their stuff just, I gotta fill this in more, but they're just for inspiration, because they just know so much that it's like, wow. There's the official documentation, sort of, and then sort of the biggest resources, which I think if you're gonna attempt in the Go, Tour is probably one of the greatest, just because I made a video on this before, but just takes you into the very introduction to what it is you're doing, and you can edit this or whatever, run it, and do your thing. Effective Go, I think, is good as just a big old readout of what Go is trying to do, what it attempted to do, Todd McLeod has some JIT repos that I think are good for the web, and some YouTube and some books and everything. Let's see. Yeah, these were already linked. Yeah, this is a good resource for if you're completely new to Go. But if you have no experience of Go, you are just literally wanting to get the first glimpse, like, is this really worth my time? I think reading this article that I'll link sort of gets you the gist of sort of what's going on with Go. It's by these people who are on the Go team, and I think it really breaks down sort of the interesting parts of Go, what they were trying to go for with Go, the origin of Go, how to build a web server and everything, and types, which is a whole thing that Go kind of introduces. I know other languages now are sort of doing more with types, but this was when Go was first coming out, and so Go was really pushing the type thing, not hierarchy, but just types, custom types, basically. The concurrency thing, and I think this is probably the biggest part of Go that I think a lot of people don't quite understand, because they think of a language as like JavaScript, where you just use these functions, you do what you got to do, and you move on, and you don't think twice about it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Oh well. But in Go, a lot of it has to do with consistency, orthogonal ways of doing things, so that when you do begin to write your code or understand things, other people can read it and understand it, and you months later can very easily understand what's going on and the importance of trying to keep things simple. I think that's something that's missed on a lot of people, especially people coming from JavaScript. That's just not a focus whatsoever. So it's something that it's kind of hard to explain because well, what does that mean? Consistency. What is so consistent about Go? And it isn't something that hits you till way later, sort of deal. When you have a project, you're looking at it, and you know exactly where to go for every little thing, and that type of thing is very important because because for me personally, when I came from Node.js and other languages, things wouldn't break. There'd be version updates. There'd be all sorts of little things that nobody tells you about that make things incredibly hard, and you have to spend hours on it, and you just want to give up. With Go, you just don't run into those little things. At least for me. Maybe there's some people who are extremely specific about other stuff, but for me personally, I didn't have that, so I didn't have to worry about it, and it's been a great journey so many years later. A lot of CLI, command line stuff, we go test and go get, which are things that when you first start out with Go, you don't necessarily use all that much, but then when you begin to use them, you're like, wow, this is utterly amazing. I can't believe this just works, especially with the Go test. It just, or benchmarking functions and everything. It's built into the language. It just works, and you're like, wow, that's just an extra feature that they gave me. And I didn't have to download this. I didn't have to look up that. I didn't, it's amazing. I think the Go ecosystem in general with libraries, I haven't had any issues really. There's definitely stuff I kind of avoid a little, in that if I feel like it's too generic, like too much going on. I'm trying to remember one framework. I don't know if it was like Macro or some of the M. It was just way too high level. I knew that stuff was going to break. It offered all these things, but you just didn't have the breakdown or the documentation or whatever, and I knew it was a bad idea. It felt very JavaScripty. Personally, I use Echo now, which is really nice and easy. I think this pretty much describes, although the design of most language concentrates on innovation of syntax and typing, Go is focused on the software development process. Go is efficient, easy to learn, freely available, but we believe that what made it successful was the approach it took toward writing programs, particularly multiple programming or programmers working on a shared code base. What does that mean, right? What does that entitle? What does that mean to you? Basically, when you look at a project, you look at it. When I look at other projects, a lot of times with JavaScript or PHP or whatever, it may look like you kind of know what's going on, but there's little things that sort of occur that you're just not totally aware of, and then when you go to try to do it, it just doesn't work. Like a lot of times with constructor functions, there's just certain things in certain languages that if you're not aware of, it'll destroy the whole thing. It just won't work. It just won't. In Go, I extremely feel like, certain data structures, I can do whatever I want with them, and it kind of doesn't matter. I can throw in another field, it kind of doesn't matter. I can throw a method on it, it kind of doesn't matter. I can call different parts of it or whatever it is. If something does matter, the compiler will tell you right away, and it gives you a very clear answer to what that is, and that is extremely useful. Not just in certain instances, but in pretty much for what I do with the web in all instances. Now, there may be some systems level C calling stuff that I'm just not privy of that maybe isn't as clear. But for me, with the web, creating a web server, especially with Echo, I don't run into that. I even generate code for another application. I don't run into that. I mean, it's that ridiculous. It feels like as if you know more, or you're getting into more complicated things, but it's because the syntax is so simple and you can change things so well and not have to worry about the little things, that you can dive deeper and get more complex, and it's just okay. You don't really have to worry about it. So yeah, that's basically the intro of Go. Okay, so where do you start? Sort of. Well, besides learning Go itself, with the tour of Go and all that other stuff. I think I went over it. Effective Go, errors, all this stuff. Just to get down the syntax a little. There's only 25 keywords, but you do got to learn how to use them. So, I mean, that's just how learning a language is. But once you sort of are bored of that and you're kind of done with that, and you're ready to just kind of move on, right? Let's say you want to do some web stuff, sort of. A good resource, I think, is go.dev. And they have a lot of stuff where you can try out things. They have all these packages for command line, cloud networking, web development. Just a lot of stuff that I think is really useful. You know what I mean? And they have a get started thing where to will go. Basically, things I described, sort of. I think this link right here is good for if you want to do pure Go. You don't want to quite jump into frameworks yet. You're just kind of dipping into how to create a web server and everything. This describes it extremely well and easy. It only goes so far, but it'll get you where you need to be with just, pure Go. For me personally, I like to use Go Echo. And I went over videos on this. And it is a framework, and it has all these things. Think of it as like, I forget what the frameworks were in Node.js, but in a sense it's one of the, I think, and this is a very personal opinion, one of the easiest and most I don't know, I still have a mental model of everything. I don't feel like I'm fighting it, which is really nice. So yeah, so let's say we want to get this ball started, just to get a web server, just to get a feel of things. Is this still going to be promising to me? Whatever. One of the first things you do is you make a main.go file. And actually, one of the first things you do, if you're completely starting from scratch, is you download the Go extensions in VS Code. It just helps you a lot in writing stuff, like, if you're doing this, it just makes things a lot easier. Import stuff, One thing I will tell you to look out for, import group imports. I don't know, this extension completely screws me every time. It will make my file jump, and then it'll delete a bunch of stuff. Be wary of this. For whatever reason, on my computer doesn't like it. I just don't install it. Maybe other people have never had trouble. I don't know. Anyways, so once you got this going, and let's say you just want to test out if it works. See how it auto imported and everything. Open up a terminal, and list out your files. Go run main.go. Well, I was supposed to do print line. You notice I put it behind here because I didn't do print line, I just did print. Anyways, so this is like your first Go program sort of deal. Making variables and all that is the same old stuff, you know, blah blah blah, and then you're putting instance editor, and you know, it'll print it out. It's not really a thing. Whatever. Functions, you just do func, and then you do the name, then you do the parameters. Let's say a string, and then in order to return stuff, you do string, or if you want to return multiple things, you would do string, and then this. If you understand, this part seems like kind of confusing. What is going on? Well, this is just a parameter, and you're giving it a type. Some languages now are doing this as like an after feature. Go did this kind of, I think, from the start. I don't know for sure, but these are just your return types. So when you return something, return s, which is a string, and then we are good, which is another string. So when you call this function, you would do run int, and then you would do var. Or without var, you could do just the name of the variable. Let's say toString, and you would do this, which basically means initiate. Although it's saying that it. Oh, because you can't initiate a variable too. So you would, in order to return these two strings, right? You would do another one string. And you notice it still has it where you got to use them. So just do line toString unstring. Hey, everyone's happy now. And then you do it. Oh, there we are. So how do we get into the web sort of deal? And we have to kind of install Go Echo, which is really easy. You just literally, it's like any Go program. You take the import, grab it, go install, and then you copy it in. No, I don't want grunt. I don't want anything to do with grunt. I mean, seriously, I super don't want it. Okay, it's not. Oh, okay, so you need to create a module. What does that mean, sort of deal? You do go mod init, and then whatever the name of it is. I usually do the name of the project. And what is a mod file? A mod file is basically Go's way of taking care of your dependencies and everything. You notice I wasn't able to install Echo without the mod file. So it's sort of a way to tell Go, okay, we're going to use more than main.go. We're going to use actual like third-party stuff. And you're going to take care of some of it for me to a certain degree. So we do that. We go mod tidy. Okay, now we have this Go mod file, and basically has the versioning and all that jazz. Now we try and install Go Echo, or Go Get, sorry. And it gets it. You know, so there's a go.sum, which basically locks down all the versioning for the Go Echo. Go Echo imports a lot of stuff. But, you know, you can do all sorts of things with that, but that's more of the dependency aspect of it. But now we need to create a web server. We just do copy, and we do it, and now we run it. There it is. And we take this port. Whoop. And just let it go. And then we go to localhost. Oh. What's the name of that? 1312. 23. Okay, we go there. There it is. There's our web server, so to speak, in Echo. So now what? Okay, so it sort of has these routing things, and what this basically means is take the variable from the URL, and then these are functions, and you need to make those functions, otherwise it's not going to work. So let's say you want to use this one, this handler, so to speak. Put it in. You grab the routing for it, and you add it. So now this function is this function, right? And it just runs this. So with step server, start server, and then we have to go to that URL, which is users, not the semicolon ID. That's the variable in the URL. Okay, and do users. Let's say it's user 2. Let's say 5. So it's basically taking that as a parameter, and you can do whatever you want as a variable, and he's just basically spitting it out. So now what do we do with that? Like he has here another handler. Let's grab the route, and I'll run this function. So queries, at least URL queries, are more like, I think they're like the variable. So we do show, and then it would be like team equals, blah blah blah. I think it may need a question mark. Could be wrong about that. And then member equals blah blah blah. I could be wrong about this, but let's see. Yeah, I'm a little wrong about that. Oh, not with the slash. Okay. No. Oh, because I forgot to stop the service. There we go. So it isn't with the slash, it's with this. Okay. Basically, it's taking the parameter of team and member, which is right here, throwing into variables, and just spitting it out. Okay, so like now what? And so they have another function, or form, and save user. Let's see, save user, but let's just use the one that they provide. Just easier. There's the route. I just put this routing. These are the handlers. Basically functions. I mean, that's basically what they are. So how do you use these sort of deal? I mean, you could do a curl, right? I have a resource on that inside my advocates file thing for curls and making curls and all that. Well, let's see if it works. I don't know. Let's open up another command line and maybe let's do the curl. The copy paste stuff just isn't great. Yeah, let's try it. The directory. Oh, there's a money sign. Okay. There, it spit it out basically. But how would you show that on a web page sort of deal? Well, right here they don't have a file that they're serving. They just have it purely for API use or whatever. So if you go to basically static files or templates, I should say, you can get it to serve files. So what did I put just right there? Basically this creates a template type and gives it the render method, so it renders the file. What does that mean? Well, it means something inside Echo in order to render HTML files. How do I use it? You would do this, and so this is going to be like your file system. So let's just do templates. Let's say thing. Yeah, maybe that'll work that way. We'll see. And then you gotta actually initialize it for rendering. And so you gotta have a routing and a handler for that, right? So here's the handler. As far as, okay, so there's the routing. You know, this is get post. The post is more for the form. The get is for getting data. So this function really doesn't serve a file. All it does is takes the posted data and basically shoots it back onto, I guess you could say, the page. So if we run it, oh geez Louise. Let's just do go run main.go. Oh, because I didn't actually make that folder for the templated files. And then let's do, even though we don't have a handler yet that actually serves the file, but it needs if you make it look at a certain folder, even if you don't have some that serves it, it's still gonna look. So let's do hidden.html. Let's do this. Come on, damn it! All right, let's just do this. Okay, now you get yourself a file. Let's run it. Templates. Maybe because I didn't add the slash. Okay, let's run it. Already in use. Resource monitor. I gotta close down the app. Oh, because we have this still run. Okay. There we go. So then hello is the thing for it. because we didn't actually do a form for it, did we? Yeah, it was just a thing to show for the template. Let's see. No, we don't have to get into that. Yeah, here we go. We don't need all this junk. Echo. So let's just serve the file. I mean, Jesus Christ. Let's get rid of this. Something. And yeah, it'll serve the home in that file. Restart it. And then something is the routing. There we go. So I actually served this file for it, even though I didn't do this stuff. And it's basically just this that rendered. So how could we transfer that into a function? Let's just make a function. Func home, and then do this stuff. And then just basically steal this. And then instead of calling this whole thing, we'll just do home and it'll be the same thing. So this actually renders that HTML file inside templates because we called it here. If this folder was somewhere deeper, we'd have to add, you know, top level slash, you know, you basically get the idea. This asterisk is to serve all HTML files inside that folder. Okay, well, we know how to serve files. You know, what do we do now? Let's say we do a form. Just steal a basic form. Whatever. You know, whatever it is, and then but this part of it has to be something we have to create a route for. Let's say form, and then you have to have the method equals post. So I think it's method or methods, whatever. Let's see if it works. And then you have to create the route, kind of like you have here. I usually like to separate these. So form, and let's create the function func form. And then you gotta have this echo context stuff in there. Blah blah blah. And I think we already had, actually save, I think is basically got it already, but we need a way to serve the file with the data, so it'd be like that. And then we use name as the data, and then email as email. Does the form even do that with the email? No, it's just first and last name, so let's just switch it to that, whatever. there. And then grab the other one. I'm just doing this for simple sake. I don't want to get terribly complicated with this. Okay, so it's going to grab the form data and then display it. If in fact this post and method thing is set up correctly. Turn it up, turn it back on. What is actually serving the... Let's just post get just separate it out sort of deal. So I think it's home. Yeah, that actually serves the file. Yeah, let's just call this home. Just make things easier for us. So this is going to run a function that's going to serve the file itself with the form on it. This post right here is going to process the posted data. So let's just go there with the form, submit, and it did not show that data. Let's go to it. So the data was posted, but because we didn't actually change it there. So this would be fname. Well, actually, no. Since we're using data now, it's a little different. This would be fname, last name. I don't know if it'll break because it doesn't have a value initially, but we'll see. We will see. Yeah, because it doesn't actually have a value yet. So now you have to dive into Go template sort of ways of doing things. And what does that mean? It's basically HTML syntax in order to show stuff. But you can look that up. Go template if statement. Let's say if this, and or you can do else too. So you can basically take this and we can do this if fname, then show fname. So basically that fname, and then if last name, show last name. Get rid of this. Yeah. I think we should be actually. Let me see. No, okay, whatever. Let's do that. See if it actually shows it. Let's go back. Yeah, John Doe. Yeah. And so that's the form data that's posted. That's basically in a sense showing it. So now what? Now what do we do? What I usually do, and I think I described this in another video, is I'll take this rendering routing shtick thing and I'll throw it into another file just because there's just going to be a bunch of them. How do you do that? Basically, and I'll link this project. This is my ground up one. You call this, and okay, so what does that mean? Basically, it's inside of here. So routes. And so I basically create a function. So let's just do that. Routes. Package. Routes. You could, so the thing with this is it's creating a new package routes, or you could have it be main. If you have it as main, you don't necessarily have to import it. It's like one big program, sort of, so to speak. But for me personally, I just do separate packages. That's what I do. I don't know. I don't have to. Steal this. Okay, you're probably gonna have to import echo into here. Blah blah blah. And then let's take the routes that we made, put them in there, and then let's get out of here. And then the function should just be routes, I think. Yeah, right here. Okay, and then we gotta import it. So when we import it, since we made the Go mod name first, we'll do first/routes. And that should, I think, do it, yeah. Usually you would do like a GitHub, but you have to make sure this is your GitHub thing. So if this was GitHub whatever, you'd have to import it here as GitHub whatever. Okay. And so let's try it again. Try and get show in the routes. Oh, because the functions aren't there. So let's create another folder called handler. And let's do inside here get. Another one, not inside get, but inside handler is post. And so that's where we gotta throw these functions. I like to personally separate them out. You know, I guess have to, but yeah. I usually like to do one per thing, but let's just get rid of these. Keep it simple. So this one would be home. We create a home. Echo. Package. Home. Okay, paste that in there. We have to import echo. And yeah, and then the other one is the post one. Let's do folder, save, file. It doesn't all have to be named the same, but it's just the way I do it. Page, let's do save. And it doesn't have to be capital. It's just, I don't know. Actually, I don't need that. Imports. Get that echo in there. And then get rid of that. This form, I think, is the. I think it's also the routes. Form. So it's this one. So we'll do again form form go package. Let's call it form. Okay, import echo. Okay, we have that all set up. Let's get rid of this. And so we need to import those folders into the route file so that they can get to these handlers. So let's do first /handler /get /home. Post form post save. Okay. Oh, see, now this is where the capitalization actually comes into play, because the functions actually need to be capital in order to be importable. So you do gotta go into these and change it to capital and capital. So now they're importable. Now this has no problems. Yeah. Let's see if it works now. There we go. And yeah, same thing. Now you have it separated out into little folder things, and you can just work on your little server thing. Okay, now what? Well, there's you can do authentication like this and create like a route that authenticates stuff. There's core stuff for when you want to serve certain content, or even with CSS and everything, you need a way to tell the server it's okay. So a lot of times I'll just import it when I start off, but you need the import, which they don't have here, which, you know, how are we supposed to know? I don't know why they don't do that. It's happy now. There's other middleware things like gzip, you know, to send out files quickly or whatever. Type of static files. This is for serving your CSS and all that, which you're gonna need. So let's just, you know, let's say static. It doesn't have to be called this. It's just what's named there. Say style. Oh, nope, not a file. Style.css. Background. Well, let's just do body. Background color blue. Simplest thing I can think of. So now we need to import this into our file, so to speak. Usually you would split this file thing up into header, footer, and all that, so you just work on the body, whatever. Let's see. link. I think it's source for HTML. I usually use it's I just download some HTML ones. I don't know. Sure. Yeah, whatever. It's just HTML. I'm not that worried about it. Because I think it's the... Usually it would have done... It's fine. Linking... It's a stupid thing for that. Yeah, there we go. And this would be under your static /style CSS. Let's see if that works. Didn't do it. Why? Static style. Did I misspell anything? Style CSS. Oh, let's just, because I think the second name is what you call it inside the, I don't know if that really matters, but why? It's because this needs a slash. I usually forget this stuff, is once you set it up, you're pretty much good. I'm just going to look inside the stupid ground up thing. Dashboard. No, not handler. I'm going to go. Static. Let's look into the templates. I think it's the header I put in. Yeah, that should about do it. So, what am I doing wrong here? Static. Oh, styles. Oh, jeez. Yeah, this stuff. No good. There we go. Jeez. That's funny. So, okay, you have this. You're able to style it. You're able to do the form stuff. You're able to create handlers and routes. Now what's the next sort of thing? I mean, you could serve different kind of files and all that. There's recover, which you can set middleware for. In case you wanted some like more PHP style, where when you have a certain error in your file, it just recovers and the server keeps going. You may not want that. I don't know. I have some middleware stuff kind of set up here. this is with this when you want to throw your template files into the binary. This would be kind of how you do it. This is how you kind of set parameters on your server so that there's a lot of security stuff kind of in place. You can get the IP of people if they're not using npm or not npm. Proxy or something like that. This may not get it, but yeah. Rate limiter in case bots continually press your site or your server a lot. Let's say you want another folder inside here. Let's say you want, I don't know, math or something, and you want to serve this file. Well, right now it ain't gonna serve it. But if you use this, and then that's up here in this function, I guess. Actually, I think that's a copy, isn't it? Oh no, there are different things. I think this is for the binary to store them, actually. Yeah, I think it is actually. So in order to use this, this, with this render function in here, this uses Sprig, which gives you a bunch of template functions that you can use, which is kind of nice inside basically your HTML files. Basically here you can use them. I don't know, I think it's really useful. And so this would be how you set up the middleware for that. These are already like functions I made for the templates, so you can call these up in there and then they will do stuff. I have a folder where these are called from. I'm trying to find where the heck are these being called? That's the thing. I think I changed it so much that with the binary thing, I may not be using those. Here's a simpler. This was an older one. Yeah, here we go. So instead of having this one, you have something like this, which then serves those files, but it does the parse directory function. Yeah, because this one with these is using the binary to find them, to look in the binary for those template files, which is probably why I couldn't find it. Yeah, get all names instead of that. But see, this is the embedded file. Yeah. Anyways, so now that we have that, let me see. It doesn't like it anymore with the rendered thing. Okay, so you do gotta use this if you're gonna be not using the binary for the template files. I think I'd changed so much in my ground up one to use that sort of mixing the two things in my head. Yeah, there we go. So use this one if you don't want to mess with the binary stuff. Use this and borrow from it if you want to draw from the embedded files from the binary. Yeah. So what else can you do, I guess? Just redirects and all that. I don't know, you could pretty much go through this. I'll link these in the notes and everything. I think that's a pretty good introduction to web stuff with Go. Yeah, I did other videos with database stuff as well. Yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay? Thank you.